2 weeks ago, we raised another $1 million. It's probably the last raise that we'll need. So we're somewhere around 2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my 13-year-old son with me to 3 of these meetings one night where we were sitting down with investors at a table, at a restaurant, eating dinner and going through all these different things. The number of questions that he had on the way home about how we were going to do this and how we were going to progress forward with the company was something that was super valuable.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This episode is brought to you today by PodUp. PodUp.com is the leading all-in-one AI-powered podcasting software. If you've ever considered having a podcast, want to get started, go to podup.com and check it out. I produce my podcast, use a variety of tools and producers that help me get everything done that I'm doing. Podallies.com is the agency I choose. If you're interested in having a podcast, you don't want to do it yourself through podup.com, I highly recommend that you go check out podallies.com and schedule a strategy call with one of their production specialists. They will be able to help you and think through everything you need to before you get started on your journey as a podcaster.
Welcome back to another episode of Startups with Stu. Today with me, I have Mr. McKay Francis. On the Startups with Stu show, we talk about what it takes to take your startup to the moon. And friends, I believe we have found the next business in Eastern Idaho that's going to take their startup to the moon. So McKay, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Stu.
So glad to have you with us and for you to tell me more about Casa Shares and where it comes from. Before we do that, folks, I want to say that if you have listened to every episode of the show so far, message me on LinkedIn. You'll find Stuart Draper there on LinkedIn, and I want you to tell me that you have listened to literally every episode. And if you're honest about it, and I'll be able to verify, then I have a special gift for you. So I'm really appreciative to all of our listeners who tune in. And we are going to have a lot of fun as we get going with the Casa Shares story. So, McKay, where did it come from? Where was the, do you have a light bulb aha moment for when you came up with the idea for Casa Shares?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a career in property management, real estate investment. In general, I worked for a big firm out of Seattle, and I have seen a lot of people use real estate as a catalyst to building wealth and passing wealth on to other generations. And so I got to see pretty wealthy individuals become super wealthy.
Using real estate as a tool.
Using real estate. The example that I always use is I've seen dentists that are making $500,000 a year start investing in real estate, and then after some dedicated investments, they're making, tens of millions of dollars, and they happen to be a dentist on the side.
Right.
And there are some issues that I'm sure we'll get into, but our country is very much set up in the way of having opportunities for the wealthy to become wealthier and not giving as many opportunities to the everyday individuals.
Yeah, that is, I'm sure a thought that listeners have. Right. As soon as you said that the dentist did it, everyone, oh, well, I'm not a dentist and I don't make $500,000 a year. Right. So, but that's the genius of what you're doing at Casa Shares, right?
Yeah, that's been our main goal is to bring it to the masses.
Yeah. Okay. So in bringing it to the masses, let's look for a second. I'm going to screen share here. So for those that are watching on YouTube, you guys will be able to see the screen. We're going to go ahead and share my entire screen here. I want to show you guys the Casa Shares website. Okay. So at CasaShares.com, anyone can go and make an investment, right? And you can choose from different properties that you're interested in making an investment in. Right? If I click to invest, then I can see the properties and pick which ones I want to invest in. To me, McKay, it looks similar to like Kickstarter. But anyway, the point I was trying to make when I pulled up the website is you can make a small investment, like a $10 investment. But like $10 isn't what a dentist is putting into real estate, right? So how do I make investments that end up turning into a lot more money that it becomes meaningful?
Well, the average real estate investor doesn't start investing until about age 46 in our country. And that's a problem because real estate investing is based on the snowball effect. You have to start somewhere. And once you start and you continue to invest and you're getting dividends and you invest those dividends, you're starting this little snowball, right? Yes, it helps if you have $100,000 that you can put towards something.
Yeah.
The day of being able to go buy an investment property with the unaffordability or the less affordability to do such things, you have to start somewhere else because most people don't have $400,000 to buy a condo or even the down payments are just out of reach for most people.
Yeah. So I think everyone has seen these examples where a 16-year-old starts investing in the stock market at age 16 and how much money they have when they're 65, and then how much a 26-year-old has if they start investing when they're and how much they have when they retire. And it's a lot less, right? Like that extra 10 years is a game changer when you consider the compounding interest associated with it. So what you're saying then is by having a smaller amount, you can start investing younger. It can still mean a lot later.
Absolutely.
So how do you pay out on these? Let's say I put, I buy 10 shares of the Lorraine for $100. I have to have $100 in at minimum to get in, right?
It is, yeah. So there's a minimum of 10 shares, and it's $10 per share. And every property will have a different number of shares that are for sale based on what it is. So this is a condo in Rexburg, and that's where we're based. There's a lot of future growth, especially over the next 5 years in Rexburg, Idaho. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a slam dunk for us to start right where we're at. And so somebody puts $100 in, what should they expect? There are three ways that somebody will make money. Mm-hmm. The first way is once we get a property up and going, which may take a few months and rented, the investor should expect quarterly dividends, assuming that we got the right renter in and that we're doing things right, which we're pretty confident in our ability to do that. So they get quarterly dividends. You put $100 in, maybe you get a few bucks back on a quarterly basis. The second way that somebody makes money is a property that we buy for $200,000 mm-hmm. that then 5 years later is worth $400,000. And that's not unlikely. You look at what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years around our nation and even here in Idaho. Most properties have doubled in value.
Yeah.
Just over.
Yeah. And I think everyone kind of goes, oh, I wish I had, right?
Exactly. There are so many people who never jump into real estate because they are waiting for it to come back down.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's just not going to happen. The third way that somebody benefits from owning is their tax benefits to being a real estate investor. I've never met a millionaire or billionaire. I've only met a couple billionaires in my life. I've met a lot more millionaires. They are all invested in real estate in some capacity.
Absolutely. And they're all benefiting from a tax perspective because of their real estate.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So cool. I love this. It's hard to invest in real estate until you've already made a lot of money. And so this lets get you in the game younger and faster, and you can do whatever you're comfortable with. Is there an upper limit? Like, let's say that someone else likes this. You're offering this place for $270,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 926 square feet. Geez, less than 1,000 square feet selling for $270,000. Are there other buyers in Rexburg buying homes at that price?
There are. Yeah, this is the day and age that we're in, and we feel like it's only going to go up from here. The 270 includes a little bit of buffer. We take a little extra money, keep it in the bank account, because part of owning real estate is
needing to fix things.
Yeah,
right?
Unforeseen expenses that come up. And so when somebody buys in on this property, they're actually buying a Series LLC. And that Series LLC owns the property and it owns all the money in the bank account.
Yeah.
And so when something comes up, we have funds, and we're not going and saying, hey, you put $100 in, now we got to do a cash call, so everybody put in $3.
Yeah.
We try to hedge against that from the get-go.
So you can learn all about the individual properties here on the website, and then you can click to do extra due diligence on there as well.
Yes. If you are having a hard time sleeping, you can click on that offering circular at the bottom and read through hundreds of pages of legal documents that we submitted to the SEC and their responses back. But it's all in there.
But for most people, they're putting in an amount of money that to them is a lot, but it's an amount they can lose, right? Like I think in any investment opportunity, you should be investing an amount that you are not seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe my argument against that is the fact that we try to call ourselves the Robin Hood of real estate.
Okay.
Right.
When you say Robin Hood, you're not referring to the movie, you're referring to the business Robin Hood.
I am. Most people know Robin Hood, where you can buy stocks, very few stocks, a lot. They changed this world of investments where you didn't have to go to a stockbroker. You don't have to pay a stockbroker to get you into the stock market. In a similar way, you're able to just jump on here and become a real estate investor on your own.
Yeah.
But what we want is, and we're not shy about this, we want the 18-year-old high school graduate, college kid eating top ramen
to say, I got $20 I should put in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we want them to be putting it in month after month. We want them to stretch themselves to find $100 a month so that they can put it towards this property this month. And then next month we'll have a different offering, and they'll have a diversified portfolio of assets.
Yeah.
And those assets right now we have single doors. So we have a condo, and then this Richmond house is also in Rexburg. We just finished building it this last week. And so it'll be next to go on in the next week or so.
Okay, so McKay, let's talk about the business model now. So this is the website, guys. Go check out CasaShares.com and try your hand at this stuff. I think it's a worthy investment, and I think that. But I'm that said, you have to remember that I am not a financial advisor, a wealth management advisor. That's not my game. I'm not a financial planner. I don't have any sort of accreditation as an advisor for this stuff. But I am a big fan of the business model. and I am a big fan of McKay and what you're doing. I think this is awesome. So, but let's talk the model for you on your end. How is the business going to make money? And how long before you'll be making money? Like, this stuff takes time, right?
Yeah, so technically, I shouldn't have used the word technically because I'm about to say we are a tech company.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that because we're a tech business that happens to use real estate to build the platform. If you saw the back end of what we have built over the last 2 years, it is so robust. When somebody goes to invest, within milliseconds, they're being checked to make sure that they're not part of money laundering or on some watch list in the United States. There are broker dealers that have to go through on the back end and make sure that we connect all the dots the way that the SEC has asked us to.
Yeah.
And so we're regulated to the point where we want to make sure that this is safe. We want to make sure that people's money is safe when it comes in. When you put money in on a property, that money doesn't come into our bank account. That goes to an escrow account until we're ready to execute that money.
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody puts $100 in, we as a company, we get 6% of that money to keep the lights on. Similar to most REITs or other funds, there's a certain percent that goes to the fund itself.
Yeah. Okay, so I put in $100 and $6 is what you guys are taking out of that. And then as there's dividends, it offsets that pretty quickly. Right?
It does. And you're not only invested in $94 or $94 isn't working for you, it's the full 100.
Mm-hmm.
We've just built that in to what we're doing. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying then is that it comes out for you guys at the time of the liquidity event later, or no?
It does not.
Oh, okay.
No. So most funds have a promote on the back end.
Well, you're taking 6% then on the dividends.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay. When somebody puts $100 in, 94 of those dollars are going to the asset itself. We are front loading that other $6. And what we're not doing is on the back end, when we sell that property, we're not taking a promote. Normally a fund will take 20% before they split everything up to their members. That's not the way that we're doing this. And the reason is we're not just a fund. We are a tech business. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to build our AUM, our assets under management. The bigger we get that AUM, and the more people who are investing and the more properties we're putting under our platform, the greater exponentially we grow as a tech company.
So what's the tipping point? Like how much assets under management before you're going, okay, this is paying the bills, this is going to take off?
We're sitting in a nice neighborhood right here. Yeah. It is not hard within where we can see all around. You don't have to go very far to get $1 billion worth of assets.
No, you don't.
Right now, if we had $1 billion worth of assets, we would be worth more than $1 billion as a company.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, walk me through the math of that. How investors are coming to that number?
Yes. So Silicon Valley right now, if we were to go sell, they look heavily at that AUM. Again, we're a tech business. If we were a financial advising firm that had $1 billion of assets under management, it would be different multiples. Mm-hmm. But where we're a tech company and we are showing that this is working, we will be able to get dollar for dollar on our AUM.
Okay. So what are some other examples of businesses where you've seen that happen? Because I'm guessing that's how you come up with that assumption.
It is. So this is the fintech world, the financial technology world. And so when you're looking at a fintech company like a Robinhood or like a Coinbase or those types of things, they've got a certain amount of holding that they can prove. And in return, the markets will give them dollar for dollar on a fintech company.
Yeah.
Not across the board, but generally speaking.
Interesting. Did you hear that from investors? You mentioned you went to let me step back. For all the listeners, it's important that you understand what the valuations are for your competitors, what the valuations are for your type of industry. So as some rules of thumb, a software as a service business has historically over the last decade gotten anywhere between 8 and 13%, right? Some would argue, no, it's 8 to 20%, Stu. That's a more fair number. Well, okay, so 8 to 96%, that's wrong. Let's say it's 8 to 13 times their top line revenue. That's the valuation for software as a service business. If you have an ed tech business that has really good numbers as far as growth and gross margins and things like that, year-over-year growth, then you can pull 3 to 5 or even 7 times top line revenue. If you're a service-based business, you may be more likely to get 1 time your top line revenue. If you're getting better than that, it's because you have years of showing performance of lifetime value of customers much greater than your cost to acquire those customers, really good retention and things like that. Can improve that number. But why does that matter? Because you're starting out building a business that you want to someday be able to leave. Right? And when you leave it, if you sell it, you need to be able to get the most value out of that, because you're going to make money over time in the business. But when you leave the business, for a lot of business owners, that's the biggest payday. And so it's important to understand what the value of your business is. And when you're getting started, if you know it, then you're thinking the end from the beginning, and you'll build for the best possible end scenario. So good for you already knowing that and where that sits. When you went to a capital conference, was it in DC?
It was in Boston.
Okay, what's the name of that conference?
Venture Partners, I believe.
Venture Partners. And so they gather venture capitalist companies and founders that have businesses worthy of VC money. Is that right?
They do. So they had about 150 VC companies that met in Boston. In a month, they're going to be in San Francisco area doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And Mirza, my partner out of Orange County, California, and I were invited 10, 15 days before this conference, probably closer to the 10-day mark.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Fast. And as a startup, we're trying to be scrappy. We're trying to get our names out there. We're trying to do everything that we can. And we get this phone call that they wanted us to be the fintech presenter at this conference.
How much money did you have to pay for that spot?
Actually, they were getting close. It wasn't too bad. I believe it was $5,000, which included just our participation in the conference itself. And
so you jumped on this. You're like, yep, we're in.
Yeah.
And 10 days, we'll buy the tickets, make it happen.
Exactly. And we had a pitch deck, but we hadn't practiced pitching to a larger crowd. We've been able to raise money, and our ideas were, worthy of raising money, but we hadn't done anything like this. And so we get to Boston, and they have these networking sessions set up where if somebody has interest in you before, they start setting meetings with you. And, and if you're interested in talking to someone, they start setting. And it was a very unique experience. We went in thinking we're going to have to sell ourselves and our company to these people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
These are, VC firms and venture capital. Like, how cool would that be to land, a VC deal? And we went into it very naive.
How much had you already raised by the time you got to this conference?
We had already gone through our first pre-seed round. 1.5 million is what we raised.
At a valuation of?
At the time, we were about a $10 million valuation.
Okay. Yeah. So you go to this conference, and it's you and Mirza on the cap table, plus friends and family money so far.
Correct.
And what was it like? Did they take well to the idea?
They did. Instead of trying to prove that our idea was going to work, they quickly start categorizing who you are, what this is, and where it's going to go. And
like on stage, they're doing that to you?
No, this is like I said, this was a great learning opportunity, but you sit down for a 10-minute conversation with a VC firm, and they maybe have 20 or 30 of these throughout the conference, but they sit down, they look at where you're at, what you've raised, they're asking key questions. They don't want to waste their time, they don't want to waste our time, and pretty quick we're being categorized into this. Okay, this is $1 billion plus company.
Yeah.
Fintech company, software company. And then they want to know, how much we need for their involvement. We came in saying, hey, it'd be awesome if somebody gave us $2 or $3 million. That would really propel us. It would really push out, our runway and what we would need. And we could really focus in on more marketing. The problem was they liked us and they wanted us. And we weren't expecting that. We thought we were going to be selling ourselves. And instead, we came out of this conference realizing VCs need you as much as you need them. So if you have a viable company, they want to take you on early. The earlier they can get in, the more multiples they will give their constituents.
The key there is you have to be a viable company. They do need you. There are so many VCs now and so many investment groups that are all very disciplined and smart groups. Because they're disciplined and smart, they're trusted. They can't make dumb investments. So if they see that you're not viable, they have to avoid you like the plague. But as soon as they see that you're viable, they know that other smart investment groups will also see that you're viable, and they'll have to fight to buy in and get a piece of the pie.
Yes.
So that's some really solid validation for you guys, right?
It was, and we enjoyed our conversations. We made some really good contacts, and maybe at a future point we'll go down that road. But more than anything, we ran away.
Really?
We left Boston saying we are not ready for institutional money.
Yeah. The cart and the horse and the chicken and the egg really applies in your case here, because you needed investor money early, right? And then there comes a point where they need you and you don't need them anymore, right? Banks and loans are a lot this way too. They won't give you a loan when you need it. And then when you finally don't need their money, that's when they're ready to lend. It can really be a struggle for founders.
If we were to jump on with a VC firm right now, it would be because in the next 24 to 36 months, we were looking for an exit. They have great connections. They let you know exactly who they would prep you to be purchased by. And so they set the stage. So is there a place for institutional money and VCs? Absolutely. But the investors here in Southeast Idaho that have put their trust in us and what we're doing are so much easier to work with. And we're not signing our lives away.
Right.
And they're not expecting us to work it every night till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Right. Not that we aren't working hard for our investors, but we're doing it under our rules.
Yeah.
And if we signed on with them, we would be under a lot of their rules. And we'd give up certain things that are important to us.
Dude, good for you. I'm proud of you for seeing that and being disciplined. It's sometimes easy to take money. If you've ever watched the show Shark Tank, I'm always proud of those founders that know their value and decide, I just don't need a shark in order to make this go if the sharks are going to give me bad deals. Yeah. Right. And so good for you seeing that. VCs want to take a board seat and they want to create a more formal board. And really quickly, you have a boss. And one of the reasons you're doing this is because you enjoy not having a boss. How long have you not had a boss in your career?
I'm calling it retired. I retired this last fall. So I'm only going on 6 months of not having a boss.
Okay, so you retired from being a W-2 employee that's taking a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And having the insurance and all that stuff.
And I'm calling it retired because my new boss is someone I'm married to. And if I'm not out of the bed at 6 a.m.
getting going,
she won't fire me, but she'll light a fire.
Because she knows that you've taken some big risk here and you got to go win, right? But I love this topic. Let's talk about this. My wife, Lindsay, has like sworn she would never work for me. And she stays out of the business side of my life. Pretty, that's just her preference. I've always taken a little bit of offense that she doesn't want to work for me. Like, ouch. But when you think about your spouse, you guys have 5 kids together already.
We do.
Ages 15 down to 6. Similar boat for me. I'm 17 down to 5. You can, build a family and build a business and work a full-time job, because you were doing that a lot before you decided to jump ship.
Yep.
How long were you working on Casa Shares while you were still at with your last employer?
Yeah, so Casa Shares has been in the works for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So for 2 years while I worked for the Hall Company, a local Idaho Falls company here, I was doing this on my nights and weekends.
Okay.
And it starts as an idea.
Yep.
You start making connections. You start putting different things together. I will also say my partner, Mirza, is by far the brains behind the tech side of this. He has a background from Oracle and systems management, and he understood so much more of the build out than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine is more of the customer facing.
Yeah, you're thinking through the things that Mirza is not as specialized in.
Yeah, and raising money through my connections and those types of things. So there was a point there where Mirza, he left his job probably 18 months ago to 2 years ago, and he was full-time working on the build out of the system.
So you and Mirza, how did you guys connect?
It was actually through LinkedIn, and it was through a mutual connection who said, "Hey, I know this guy, and he's coming up, to Idaho and working on a few things," and we met and just hit it off really well. Mirza is a great guy.
Just via video call, or you meet in person?
No, met him in person.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we had a get together with some other angel investors in the Rexburg area, and he was looking at some different opportunities to
But he's from Orange County. What was he doing?
Yeah, it was because of this mutual connection.
Oh, okay.
That he had come up and thought it would be, a fun opportunity to try. And so he had some ideas with the system. I've always had fractional ownership in the back of my head. Mm-hmm. If I were to want to go buy a place in Hawaii and I didn't have all the money, but I had some buddies who wanted to go in with me, I always thought that fractional ownership would be good because I can't use that 100% of the time anyway. Yeah. And so I've always played around, liked the idea, never really executed on the idea. But we put these two thought processes together and came up with this idea that we may have the ability to fractionalize not a property down to 6 pieces, but maybe down to 2,500 pieces, and allow people to buy little chunks. No, they're not going to go use the property on the weekend necessarily, but they will own a piece of something that is producing income.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to pay attention to that connection, how you two met. That you met first on LinkedIn, you made it happen to meet in person in real life. It worked, and then you started working together. When did you decide, okay, this is how we're going to split the business up in ownership?
Any project that I ever do, I look at it as going really well or very poorly.
Yeah.
And I have to look at it from the front end like that, because I don't want to make decisions at the very beginning that are going to cause issues. my marriage. That's the biggest partnership that I've ever made.
Absolutely.
And it is 50-50. We walk side by side.
Okay.
We decide on things together.
And so you're both equally diluted on anything that you're doing together.
Yeah.
So if you've given up 10%, probably 15% equity, then you guys each own half of 85%.
Yeah. Everything we do is 100% 50-50.
Yeah.
Our attorneys were not thrilled when they wanted someone to own just a share more. And we said, you know what? If we have to sit in a room for 2 days until we're able to make a decision together, that is better than one of us having dominance over the other.
And you guys have been working together now for 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
So it's working so far.
It is.
Yeah. I think you'll find that it can continue to work. Especially if one of you is like, hey, on these decisions, you can just make them. On these decisions, you can just make them. Everyone kind of knows how that'll work. Good for you. I think if you're not a tech founder and you need to work and you don't have the money to pay an engineer for 2.5 years to build something, then splitting that up that way is a good way to keep it fair. And especially if you really realize how much you rely on each other and you're both able to continue to add value at the same level over time. So
yes, I try to keep up with Mirza. He's a workhorse.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like he's doing more than his share, but together we really do make a good team. And
well, you're a workhorse, and this goes back to the spouse thing we were discussing earlier. So, like for the last 2 years, not the last half year, but for 2 years, you worked all day, 8 to 5. Then you would go home, spend a little time with the family. Kids would go to bed, and you would work again until you went to bed. Is that right?
it's true.
And then you say on Saturday morning, you're still waking up early and getting things going for you want to play with family so you can get more work done. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to take a second and thank the great team at Pod Allies that helps me produce this podcast. Startups with Stu is not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of work and team power to get this thing done. So the team I use for my podcast, podallies.com, go check them out. If you are considering a podcast, if you've thought you have a dream for a show and you want to go make it happen, go to podallies.com and book a strategy call today. I promise you won't regret it. Speaking of the show or shows, let's get back to Startups with Stu in this episode. Forgive my interruption, but if you're interested, go check out podallies.com.
My story was very similar, by the way. I worked for 2 years on the side at night on the idea for StuCamp. And I still owned getfoundfirst.com at that time, and I had a managing partner, but I still had to put some time and energy into that business as well. So yeah, it was work 8 to 5, get the kids in, play with the kids, enjoy dinner with the family, and then work until bedtime, and then start over the next day.
It's great.
Thursday nights I found were the best. Like all week long, there's some other people working, and you're still getting new emails at night. But Thursday night, by that day of the week, I'll tell you what, everyone has skipped. I was still going, and that was probably one of the most successful nights to just keep up and get stuff done. How does your wife do it, dude?
She's awesome. She's a workhorse as well. Maybe a little different
On the business?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
So yes, she's the CEO of our household and keeping schedules and everything like that. But on the business side, she also is very opinionated and has great insights on where we should take things and go with things.
Mm-hmm.
And she enjoys real estate, and we have developed some subdivisions.
Yeah.
And
as well, because why not? You have a full-time job. You might as well develop some properties.
In our spare time. We moved back to Rexburg in 2017. We were living in Seattle and decided we needed to come back to Southeast Idaho. And when we came back, we had this desire to pick up a piece of land, learn how to develop it into buildable residential lots. Mm-hmm. And so we cut our teeth on one and learned a lot of really good lessons, but we also made some really good money off of this subdivision. And we took that and rolled it into the next one and the next one. And our kids have been there with us the entire way. So Carly and I, yes, we made these decisions together. She worked with me. She sold a whole bunch of our lots and spends a lot of time on the phone. But when we dug utility trenches and we were gluing pipes together, we have pictures of our youngest falling asleep in the sand down in this trench while we're gluing pipes. And we had a stroller in there at one point. And so we've done this as a family and built that side of our family wealth. And the kids will participate in that at a certain point.
Yeah. Oh, cool. You've set that up for them to be able to participate. Yeah. I love it. I think it's very common for people to be like, oh, the only time you can start a business is when you're young and single and you can just kill yourself working 90-hour work weeks. And what I found is that I could still serve in the church that I belong to. I could still raise kids and be there for my kids, and choose to go to a sporting event knowing that meant stay up later. I could wake up early on Saturday morning and give up my morning time before my kids were even awake and get a lot of extra work done when no one else was going to be bugging me. But it's not easy to do that, is it?
It's not.
But that's a price you pay, I think.
Yeah. People want to compartmentalize. Oh, while I'm working, I can't be a dad. Or while I'm doing church responsibilities, I'm not able to, focus on this or the other. 2 weeks ago, we raised another $1 million. It's probably the last raise that we'll need.
So you had $1.5 million. You just added another $1 million.
We did. So we're somewhere around $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my 13-year-old son with me to 3 of these meetings one night where we were sitting down with investors at a table, at a restaurant, eating dinner and going through all these different things. The number of questions that he had on the way home about how we were going to do this and how we were going to progress forward with the company was something that was super valuable. I'm not one of those that I don't feel like my kids have to walk in my shoes or take over businesses, or it's probably easier if they don't go that path someday, right? That being said, having him there and letting him participate in these big conversations where hundreds of thousands of dollars were being transacted was a really valuable parenting opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, give me the tears, man. Give me the scary stuff, the hard days where you're like, oh crap, am I doing this right? What examples do you have? The struggle, because I think it's important for everyone to relate to the struggle side.
Yes, risk can be mitigated, and you can try to do your best to pull risk out of deals and out of opportunities. You will never be able to pull it all out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain amount of gamble, might not be the right word, just risk. When you move forward with something and you have somebody else's money, they've put trust in you and you're trying to do your best,
mm-hmm.
but there's always opportunity that things will fail.
Absolutely.
We took our initial pre-seed money from close friends of mine,
mm-hmm.
family of mine. These are people
that you'd never want to let down.
Yes. If I let these people down, I just have to move to a different country and disappear.
Isn't that like the most motivating thing ever, though, to go find a way to
completely? I would rather do that and prove to them that I'm going to make this work than take it from somebody I don't know and feel like I could walk away
and go well
and host them.
Yeah. No, founders, pay attention to this. I thought I would never take money, that I could always be a bootstrapper. I bootstrapped getfoundfirst.com. There is nothing more motivating for me personally to work hard than knowing that I took other people's money and they trusted me to find a way to bring them a return. That is ultra motivating. And the last thing I wanted to do was let them down.
Yeah.
And then what I learned was, oh my gosh, running a business with funds is so much easier than running a business that doesn't have any money, because you have to always be finding a way to just make the next paycheck, and you're always worried about that versus worried about the long term. You have to think so short term with the bootstrapped approach, which I've done and it can work, but raising money was big for me.
Yeah, it's big. The part that I would share is we had to go to the SEC. We had to get the federal government to give us an exception to rules. So 90% of Americans are non-accredited investors.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors, the government calls them unsophisticated investors.
Right.
And I've always taken a little bit of insult to that unsophisticated or non-accredited ruling. So we had to go to the federal government and ask for this exception and say, listen, you will let people buy stocks on Robinhood. You'll let them buy crypto on Coinbase. These are invisible items that you're letting them buy, and they could lose their shorts on any of these platforms. You won't let people invest in real estate that is a tangible asset.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go to the SEC with the best attorneys in Washington, D.C. They weren't cheap, and we wouldn't do it any differently. These guys were top-notch and worked with us for a year to 18 months. And at the end of it, we had no guarantees that the SEC was going to give us that.
And
that
you're making
approval.
that bet. But that's like what helps you stand apart, right?
Yeah.
So are you really first in the world for the fractional real estate thing at this level where it's for non-accredited?
We are not, but we didn't know about our competitors until we made it into our SEC process. These are not household names yet. So there's one that is Bezos. Jeff Bezos has backed a company, and it's called Arrived Homes. Very similar model. They started in Atlanta, and they started during the COVID period, and now they're up to maybe close to 300 million AUM.
Okay.
And their business model has changed a little bit. They're not going after the $100 person anymore. They're going more towards putting bigger funds together. And
classic.
They started door to door.
It's easier. The idea is that it got easier to not go to the retail end consumer. It got easier to go to the big investors and just get a bunch of money fast. But man, the sticking to that dream of being loyal to and sticking true to your mission of helping the rookie investor get started is so important.
Yeah. There are a few other companies out there. There's one that sells shoes fractionally. So they'll take Michael Jordan's 1996
Come on, are you serious?
NBA playoff shoe, and they'll throw it up for, $6 million. And people can buy a piece of that.
$6 million? You're kidding me, right?
I'm not kidding. But guess what? If you are a huge Nike or Air Jordan fan and you have a piece of that, you're going to go tell all of your friends that you own a piece of Michael Jordan's shoe. You'll never see it. You'll never touch it, but you own a piece. There are other companies that do it with art. Picasso is one that it's only for accredited investors. And they sell pieces of art. Same thing. You say you own this famous piece of art, then they go put it in some climate-controlled warehouse and hide it away for the rest of time.
Speaking of non-sophisticated, unaccredited investors, bro, are you actually accredited if you're choosing to make that investment? Maybe there's a lot of stories of big wins there that I'm just unfamiliar with.
Yeah, there's appreciation, but there's no dividend coming off of those. People aren't paying to go see these pieces of art. So everybody has their thing.
So what's the dream, McKay? What's the dream? When you think about why you're working so hard and doing this. Like, you were already going to be fine financially without starting this business. You could have stuck to the career. You could have stuck to the side job, real estate, investing stuff that you were doing and been a multimillionaire when you retired. You've already made your first millions, or million at least, right? So why go big on CasaShares.com and do this?
For me, it's mission-based. The idea of how long it took for me to earn my first $1 million and how painful that was. I mean, we are talking about managing apartments while being a full-time student, donating plasma for grocery money and gas money. Like, I feel like people work so hard to try and get there. My wife and I have been so blessed, so fortunate in some of the things that we've done and the decisions we made to buy houses and things like that, that yes, we financially we're fine. We're set.
Yeah.
We've put enough away for retirement, but some people work all their lives trying to get, maybe $1 million nest egg to hopefully then live out the rest of their years and work so hard. Well, 30 years old, I got my first $1 million. And realized at that point that when you become an accredited investor, people come out of the woodworks with cool deals, opportunities. There is no
new best friends.
The bank hated me and wouldn't lend to me, in certain places all along the way. Like, oh, you didn't fit within our box. Sorry, we're not gonna give you a loan on this or that. But the minute that I had $1 million in a bank account with them, I had the vice president of the bank calling me, asking, if I wanted a personal assistant, somebody who could help me, move money around. It actually made me a little uneasy over that first 6 months. How many deals, how many opportunities. I could have put money in oil. I could have put money in hotels and guarantees of 10% returns and 8% returns and all these different things. And I realized if 90% of Americans don't hit this accredited opportunity, that means the 10% who are already wealthy are getting the majority of the opportunities to use money to make money. And after the first $1 million, taking 30 years to get there, the next few came really quick.
It happens faster.
And so maybe I've built a little personal vendetta and made a mission within myself where I want my kids, I want your kids, I want individuals to be able to say, I built something from $100 investment and now I have $3 million. And it's because I was disciplined and I continued to invest and I reinvested my dividends and we had appreciation over the 30 years that I was doing this. And give opportunities. Don't start when you're 47. Start when you're 18 and get yourself in a mindset of being scrappy and putting it towards something. We're not the only platform out there. If somebody starts a Roth IRA or can really stay disciplined in lots of different things, there are lots of ways to become successful and to make money. But real estate is a way that you can make it in multiples, potentially multiples faster.
So how long before I can get my money back, by the way, out of my Casa Shares investments? It's all based on when the real estate sells, right?
It is. So this is one thing that is a little bit different. When people invest in real estate, it's usually not, hey, I'm throwing in $100 today, but if I need an engagement ring next week, I'll just pull it back out. Right. So most of the REITs and most of what these millionaires and billionaires are doing, it's more of a long-term investment. However, right now this doesn't make sense because we're trying to get what we call retail investors. We want tens of thousands of people to be putting in the hundreds of dollars. Once we hit this critical mass of retail investors, we're going to be putting a secondary market on our.
We can sell the shares. Yeah.
So there will be liquidity.
But right now, that's not how to think about it.
It's not. And I've heard this called golden handcuffs at times. Some of the investments that I've put money into have guarantees on them, but if I touch that money early, I get penalized, and I call it golden handcuffs. It's really nice to have something where you're putting money, and when things get tight, that's not the first place that you can pull from.
Yeah.
It helps someone stay disciplined. However, we know that people should have some sort of liquidity, so they'll be able to hop on there and say, "Hey, I bought this for $100. It appears that the market shows that these shares are worth $150. They could post them. Somebody else could pick up those shares."
That's cool. I like it.
So we're probably a year out from the development of that.
So it's been so fun to have you. As we wrap up, let's talk go-to-market strategy. What are you guys doing today to help grow, and where do you see it going as far as getting the name and word out there?
Yes.
Have you figured it out?
No, I came on here so you'd give me the golden answer.
Let's do that. Hit me with any questions you have, if you will.
No, I appreciate it. I'll tell you where we're at, and then maybe if some ideas come to your mind. Here's what's happened is we spent so much time building out the platform and getting the approvals. We got that golden stamp from the SEC. Everything was the build up, and now we're at go-to-market. Mm-hmm. We have funds, and everybody wants to take our funds
to go and help you go to market.
Yeah. And so we have all sorts of different firms that have the answer for us, and we've tried different things, and we're just sampling. What we found this week, we went on with a major influencer. Mm-hmm. Wasn't cheap, but we're 48 hours right now, and we have over 100,000 people who have watched the content. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of that funnel. We have a lot more that have, not a lot more than 100,000, but we have a lot who have come to our website. And then we have a lot of sales that have come from that influencer. Mm-hmm. But what we're finding is some of these big influencers have fatigued their audiences.
Yeah.
But then you have all these startup influencers out there. There are tens of thousands of micro influencers who have anywhere from 10 to 30,000 people who follow them. And we're getting similar results when we go after one of them. Yeah. And I can't fully say that it's better than going with a more of a macro influencer.
Yeah. So McKay, the influencer idea, I like that one. Outside of the influencers, what are some of the other go-to-market strategies you guys have been playing around with?
In the financial world, you have Benzinga, you have some of these platforms that go after people who have interest in financial investments.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
And we've played with them. We've received some positive feedback.
They'll make like recommendations of investments too, right? Some of those platforms.
And it's basically based on how much you pay that platform. And they'll get more eyes on it.
With a grain of salt. Yes.
So we have some traditional SEO methods. Meta is just way too expensive. It just doesn't.
The ad support.
Yeah, on Facebook, Instagram, those types of things, the cost per acquisition is 10 times higher than other platforms. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of stay away from that. We're producing content. The great thing about what we're doing is when you get one person, an unexpected person who becomes a real estate investor, they don't keep it quiet.
They got to tell someone that they own property.
If you're an 18-year-old kid on a baseball team or whatever else, you're going to tell your buddies that I just bought part of an investment property. Mm-hmm. And so we get a lot of friends and also repeat customers. So this initial go-to-market is a push, and after that, we really want to be maintaining our investor base.
There are a lot of different ways to advertise on Meta. We don't have time in today's episode, but I'd love to show you a couple of tricks up my sleeve for maybe some cheaper views that you might find beneficial that we could, I'll pull up on screen later.
I'd love that.
But aside from that, I think one kind of forgotten method that actually can still work really well is TV, like late night TV. When someone's up late at night, they are usually in a bad place. They're in a tough position, and they're looking for ways to change their life, right? So a lot of the like late night infomercial stuff on different courses you can take to go and upgrade your career and stuff are played. There might be a cool opportunity within that space. There's a company I've found and found to be pretty successful called Vibe. Tryvibe.co is the website. And you can buy TV views in the 5 to 15 cent range. And what they're doing is they're like replaying your videos on Samsung TVs where they can retarget your existing website visitors. So people that have considered an investment, you can run additional ads to them that can be on not just in front of the computer anymore. And that can be successful. But figuring out your cost to acquire investors is a really important part of the game. Like, you've got to know your cost to acquire investors and then the lifetime value of those customers. What's the average investment looking like over time? Do you take care of the finances right now? Like, who's doing the Excel spreadsheets?
Yeah, we do that. Mirza and I do that together.
Okay.
Tracking pretty close on what we're spending and what we're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So if somebody comes and makes $100 investment off of a $70 Meta conversion,
mm-hmm.
it's not the end of the world, because 75% of our investors are coming back to reinvest.
Yes.
And so
that's the trick, is being able to have some history to learn the bigger number, the longer term number, not just the short term number. And in the short run, you have to like keep making investments in things, not knowing if it's really going to give you that lifetime value that's higher or not.
Yeah. And we have less conversions going with a mega influencer,
mm-hmm.
but maybe that cost per acquisition, is down to $20 or $30.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do this balancing act and try to play around and keep it fresh. And
with the mega influencer that you worked with, Jordan Page, right? She ran a video reel that she created for you guys. Did she make commitments around? Did you negotiate with an agent for her?
No.
Direct with her. Does she usually use an agent?
She does in different circumstances. She has a whole team that works on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you use these platforms that have influencers, Impact is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Your message gets watered down a little,
mm-hmm.
and their payment gets watered down a little.
Yep.
And so if you have connections to go,
something, right?
It definitely helps. But we are using some of those other platforms to get these micro influencers in mass.
Yeah.
And inviting them in mass to come and create content and have payouts for bringing us customers.
Cool. All right. Well, this is the key right here. What we're talking about is the next steps for the success of your business. Figuring out the way to be in front of the people that will put dollars into these homes these beautiful, amazing homes. Like what you've done with Casa Shares is incredible. Now it's a matter of just like promotion at a level you've never thought of before. Like everyone in the world has to know about Casa Shares. I'm surprised it's not on your shirt right here.
I should have.
But like CasaShares.com is a brand you're just going to want to keep building and building. The book that I recommend for people for branding is 10X by Grant Cardone. Not because it's about branding, but because he does a really good job of helping you understand how important it is to never apologize and never stop promoting your brand. And if you ever follow Grant Cardone, trust me, you will start seeing the guy everywhere you go, because he's doing a really good job of, and what he says is like, you want to take your brand to a place where it's seen as often as Coca-Cola is seen. And until you can see your brand as often as you see Coca-Cola, you haven't done enough to promote your brand. I love that mentality. You have to very unapologetically promote your brand.
Sure.
So,
fun fact, We've been on the phone with Grant Cardone.
Oh, cool.
He tried to buy our company.
Did he?
We
cool.
We were working on a merger with he and his partner Ryan. Grant Cardone has 16 million followers.
Yeah, dude. Like, you're to the moon overnight.
But Grant Cardone only has 16,000 investors. He has 16 million followers.
Yeah.
But
he's dealing with accredited investors only.
So he appeals to this demographic that we're going at.
Right, because the other 16 million roughly still.
Yeah.
If it's almost 16,000, it's still roughly 16 million people that could be invested.
I know. So we were hoping that we could make a deal because he has what we need.
Yeah, you're on the radar.
Yeah.
If you're just on that radar, then later on you'll probably have an upper hand in negotiating. Right now you're still small.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe at some point we'll have those conversations again. But it has been interesting.
Oh, cool. See. That's cool. How did you get on Grant Cardone's? Like, how did you get on his calendar?
So okay, funny story.
Let's hear it.
You gotta be scrappy, right?
Yeah.
So Mirza really likes Grant Cardone. I follow him.
Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt.
He's always talking about his yacht, his jet, and things like
it's
that.
It's a little cringe.
It doesn't appeal to me necessarily in all those ways. But Mirza found somebody in his office that was like, Ashley@CardoneCapital.com. And so Mirza sent an email to Grant@CardoneCapital.com and said, this is what we have. This is why you need us. And we know that the majority of your people don't have the ability to invest in what you're doing. Within minutes, he had sent an email back and said, I want to get on a call. And so...
With Grant himself?
With Grant. We're on with Grant, and then he calls his pilot and his VP, Ryan, to join the call. We had a few different calls after that, and it ended up not... Probably partially our fault, not necessarily fault, but we just didn't click the way we should.
Timing is everything in situations like that. And by the way, usually you find later, you're like, oh, that's why that didn't work out. I'm glad that didn't work out. So
exactly.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good for you. I think that's there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that type of hustle to go get in front of the right person. So last but not least, do you have a book you recommend to people that has really helped you in your life?
I have one on the top of my mind right now. There's a guy named Shane Snow.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Shane?
He and I went to school together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little bit before me.
Yeah.
But he has this book called Smart Cuts.
I love Smart Cuts. Yeah. I've recommended it to a lot of people. That's cool.
Yeah, I just finally found something that explained myself.
Yeah, you're like, I relate to this. Like, this is what I did.
Yeah, as I was reading and going through and some of those examples, it's not that I'm trying to shortcut life, but why would I go through all the pain and anguish of somebody to get to a certain point if I could find a way around it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard. Our culture wants you to think that you need to be working from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that you need to work until you're 70 years old,
mm-hmm. until
you get your maximum benefits of Social Security and everything else, and then you go and die.
Yep.
And I've always thought differently. I have a dad who was a great example. He was an attorney, gave up his private practice to go work for the state of Utah under the Attorney General. And he did that so that he could coach our teams, that he could be present. But he worked his tail off. He was in a suit every morning by 7 o'clock and out the door. And he just retired a few years ago. And I could never see myself sitting at a desk
mm-hmm.
until I was 70 years old. Yeah. I just couldn't imagine it. I knew that there were other ways to do things. Hats off to those that can. There's a need and a place for those types of things. But Smart Cuts was a book that spoke to me not being lazy, but trying to be smarter to get to where I wanted.
He uses the example of Nintendo and how you can hit warp tunnels that move you from one level 7 levels versus up just one more level. So great book. Highly recommend Smart Cuts, especially if you're younger in your career. You'll find it quite helpful. McKay, it has been so fun to have you on the show. I think that hopefully you're going to get a lot of investors. I would imagine so. And I think that more than anything, you are going to take your startup to the moon, which is what we do when we talk here on Startups with Stu.
Appreciate it, Stu.
Thanks, bro.
Hey, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, and other listeners of Startups with Stu. Thank you for listening to this episode today. As I mentioned at the beginning, as I mentioned in the middle, I want to take a second again at the end and say, if you haven't yet and you're considering a podcast, go check out podallies.com. They sure help me a lot with the show. And I am so grateful for all that they do to help me accomplish Startups with Stu and get it out to the world so we can help more founders and take your startup to the moon. Go check out podallies.com and podup.com if you're interested in podcasting at any level.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.